Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. The rain hit the windshield like it had something to prove. I sat there, both hands locked on the steering wheel, like letting go might send me over the edge. My blazer was too tight across the shoulders. I hadn't worn it since my last job interview 6 years ago, but I needed the armor. It reminded me of when I used to believe that working hard and doing the right thing actually got you somewhere. Next to me, my mother was trembling. She didn't say a word. She hadn't said much since the hospital called 4 days ago. Just sat there, like someone had unplugged her. Her fingers fidgeted with the sleeve of her coat, her eyes fixed on the law office across the street like it might swallow us whole. Jack Cross was dead, my grandfather, the man who raised me when my dad ghosted and my mom cracked. He was a retired police chief, tough, old school, never missed Sunday church or a Phillies game. He could make a grown man cry with one stare, but he made my lunch every day in 4th grade without saying a damn word about it. Now we were here for the will. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I saw them first, Brian and Ashley, as we pulled up. My uncle looked like a political candidate fresh off a campaign bus. Perfect gray suit, polished shoes, that smug grin he probably practiced in the mirror. Ashley stood under his umbrella, like she'd wandered off the set of some reality show. She was in heels, in the rain, holding a newborn like it was a designer bag. I didn't even know its name. My jaw clenched the second I saw them. That baby was the spark that blew the family sky high. Brian had the affair while his wife was dying of breast cancer. Ashley was barely 25 and didn't blink when she moved in. Jack never said much about it, but I knew. He stopped showing up at Brian's house, never acknowledged the kid. That said everything. I can go in first if you want, I muttered. My mom shook her head. No, we go together. I nodded once, popped the door open, and stepped into the downpour. The blazer soaked fast, but I didn't care. I looked straight ahead and didn't acknowledge Brian. He smirked at me anyway, like he knew something I didn't. Ashley gave me a once-over and clutched the baby tighter. I walked past them without blinking. Let them follow. The receptionist led us down a narrow hallway that smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet. Her heels clicked too loud against the tile. No one said anything. My mother walked beside me like she was made of glass. Slow, careful, barely there. We stepped into a conference room that looked like it was built for intimidating people. Huge oak table, leather chairs, tall windows with the blinds half drawn. A clock ticked in the corner like it was judging us for being 5 minutes early. Brian pulled out a chair like he owned the place. Ashley slid in next to him, already bouncing the baby on her knee like she was posing for some glossy family magazine. The kid made a soft grunt, and Ashley cooed like it was announcing the next king of England. I sat down across from them, next to my mother, who flinched at the sound of her own chair scraping the floor. Her coat was still damp. She held her purse in her lap like someone might try to take it. I didn't look at Brian. I didn't look at Ashley. I stared at the table. Deep scratches ran through the polish. Someone had tried to cover them with filler, but you could still see the truth underneath. God, I hate this place, Ashley whispered with a little laugh. So stiff. Like we're on trial. No one's on trial, Brian said. It's a formality. Ashley leaned toward the baby again. You hear that, sweetheart? It's just a silly little meeting. You're the legacy. After all, I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood. My mother didn't move. The door opened, and in came Mr. Keaton, gray suit, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of man who probably alphabetized his cereal. He looked exhausted before he even sat down. Thank you all for coming, he said, setting a thick manila folder in front of him. The label read, Jack Cross in bold black letters. He opened the folder slowly, careful with the pages like they were evidence. Then he paused. Without saying a word, he reached into the folder again and pulled out a smaller envelope. Sealed. He placed it off to the side of the table, not even explaining it. But I saw my name written on the front. Dana, in Jack's handwriting. Sharp. All caps. No middle name. No confusion. I knew that handwriting. Grocery lists. Christmas cards. The one note he left on my car dashboard senior year when I skipped school. Come home or don't, but know where you come from. No one else saw it. Not yet. They were too busy with the baby, or pretending not to care, but I felt the shift. My stomach knotted, and I knew this wasn't going to be a routine reading. Before we begin, Keaton said, I'll ask that we keep interruptions to a minimum. Mr. Cross was thorough. His intentions were clear. Brian leaned back, one hand draped over Ashley's chair. Of course. We're all just here to honor Dad's wishes. Ashley gave him a tight little smile like they'd rehearsed that line on the way in. Keaton cleared his throat and flipped open the first page. Across the table, my mom was shrinking into her coat. I reached over and touched her hand. It was ice cold. She didn't squeeze back, but she didn't pull away either. Ashley took a moment to adjust the baby's blanket like it was a prop. I just think it's sweet he wanted us all together like this, she said with fake warmth. For closure? For the baby's sake? The baby blinked. Brian looked bored. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My eyes kept drifting back to the letter. That envelope burned like it was hot to the touch. Whatever was in there, it wasn't small. Jack didn't write things down unless he wanted them remembered. Keaton shuffled the pages like he was buying time, then straightened them into one clean stack. His tone changed. Clipped, steady, professional. I'll now proceed with the reading of the last will and testament of Mr. Jack Cross. That envelope sat silently beside the folder. It wasn't time yet, but it was coming. Keaton adjusted his glasses and started reading in that dry, practiced tone lawyers use when they don't want to get emotionally involved. I, Jack Cross, being of sound mind and body. I sat still, breathing slow, nodding like I was following the language, even though 90% of it was legal filler. My mother stared down at the table. Her hand was still in mine, limp and cold. Across from us, Brian lounged like he was watching a movie he already knew the ending to. Ashley was smiling at nothing, like this was all part of some plan. The baby let out a tiny hiccup, and she jumped on it like it was a mic check. He always said legacy mattered more than anything, she said, interrupting like she'd just remembered something brilliant. He told Brian and me that this little guy would carry the Cross name forward. That's what he wanted. Family first. Keaton didn't look up. If we could hold all comments until the full reading is complete. No, sorry. But that's what Jack told us, she pushed, nodding at the baby like he was Exhibit A. He said the future should go to the next generation. His words, Brian reached out and rubbed her back like she was doing great on stage. Keaton kept calm. Mr. Cross did include a personal letter to be read aloud after the formal provisions. I believe that will address some concerns. Ashley blinked. Just a split-second hesitation. Barely visible, but I saw it. Brian didn't blink at all. Still smug. Still sure. I didn't say a word. Didn't flinch. Just stared at the folder like it owed me money. And even with all that noise, my mind drifted. Jack's voice in the garage. I was 16, scraping paint off his old canoe. He said, "Truth matters more than comfort. Always choose truth." That was Jack. No fluff, no hand-holding. He wanted me to join the force. I didn't. I joined the Peace Corps after college, went to Honduras for 2 years. He didn't talk to me for a month. Then one night he showed up at my door with a box of tools. No apology, no lecture. Just said, "Your roof's crap. Let's fix it." That was his way. He never praised me. Never coddled. But when my mom fell apart and I stayed, when I canceled grad school and took a teaching job down the street to keep her fed, he started leaving groceries on the porch. Quiet like that. A month before he died, he called me. Late. Said, "I need to tell you something, but not yet. You'll understand later." That was it. And now I was here, listening to a woman who didn't know him pretend she had the inside track. Keaton flipped a page. He was getting closer. I felt it in my spine. Ashley cleared her throat like she was trying to hold back a speech. Her eyes darted between Keaton and the baby. Brian leaned forward. "We just want to make sure Jack's wishes are honored." That's all. Keaton gave a polite nod. "They will be." He turned another page. I glanced at the sealed envelope again. My name still untouched on the front. Sharp, block letters. That letter wasn't backup. That letter was the point. The baby started to fuss, and Ashley popped a pacifier into his mouth with one hand while adjusting her blouse with the other. My mother suddenly sat up straighter. Her fingers tightened around mine. First movement she'd made in minutes. Keaton looked up. "We're nearly there," he said. "If you'll allow me to finish." Ashley gave a tight nod. I didn't move. I just braced myself. The next page would tip everything, and I wasn't sure who in that room was ready for it. Keaton cleared his throat, flipped the final page like it weighed more than the rest. Jack Cross's remaining estate includes a fully paid-off home in Lancaster County, a retirement pension from the Philadelphia Police Department, approximately $168,000 in combined savings and investment accounts, and a collection of personal memorabilia, including awards, letters, and service records. No one moved. I didn't breathe. I just felt my mother's hand slide under the table and grip mine tight. First time she'd held on since the hospital. Her fingers shook. Keaton looked up briefly, then back down. As per the will's instructions, these items are to be distributed as follows. He reached into the folder again and pulled out a small white sheet. Short, probably handwritten by Jack himself. To Brian Cross, he read, I leave my service revolver and the framed commendation letter from the 1987 arson case. These are yours as a reminder of what we once stood for. Brian blinked. That smug look dropped half an inch. Keaton continued, unmoved. No other personal or financial assets are designated for Brian Cross. I felt a cold ripple go through the room. A chair creaked. Even the baby stopped gurgling. Ashley leaned forward. I'm sorry. What? Keaton didn't look up. Ashley Monroe is mentioned only for clarification. She is not a beneficiary of this will, nor does she receive any direct bequest. Ashley scoffed. Are you? He knew about the baby. He knew? She gestured hard with her free hand, bouncing the baby on her lap like it would shake sense into the room. This child is his only grandchild. Keaton calmly set the page down. The will designates Dana Cross as the primary beneficiary of all remaining assets, including property, funds, and personal items not otherwise specified. Silence. The air in the room went razor thin. I didn't move. My mother gasped softly, but I kept my hand steady in hers. Brian stood up so fast his chair tipped. No, absolutely not. He didn't mean that Keaton remained seated, hands folded. The will was signed, notarized, and witnessed by two independent parties. The intent is crystal clear. He was manipulated, Brian snapped. He wasn't in his right mind at the end. He never would have. Ashley cut in, panic bleeding into her voice. Jack said, he promised this baby would be taken care of. He told us that. You're saying he just left him with nothing? Keaton gave a tight nod. Mr. Cross made arrangements in case the primary beneficiary declined the inheritance. If Miss Cross were to refuse, the entirety of the estate would go to a nonprofit literacy program in Maple Ridge, Pennsylvania, which Mr. Cross supported anonymously for over 20 years. Brian's jaw dropped. A what? A youth literacy center. Ashley turned red. That's not even. How is that fair? That baby is his blood. I looked up finally. My voice came out flat. So am I. Ashley froze, mouth open. Brian pointed a shaky finger across the table. You don't get to play the martyr now, Dana. You walked away from this family. Brian. Keaton's tone was sharp, the first time he'd sounded anything but neutral. You may contest the will through formal legal channels if you choose, but the provisions stand unless a court overturns them. Brian glared at me like I'd just robbed him at gunpoint. He didn't love you like that. I didn't blink. You sure about that? Ashley tried to soften. She bounced the baby gently, adjusted her tone. Dana, think about what you're doing. This isn't about us. It's about giving Jack's grandson a secure future. That's all he wanted. Keaton shifted the sealed envelope slightly toward him, like preparing for what came next. There is still Mr. Cross's personal letter to be read aloud. I believe it will offer further explanation. Brian shoved his chair upright and sat down, arms crossed like a petulant child. Ashley pressed her lips together, eyes narrowed. I leaned back just slightly. Let's hear it, Jack. Keaton picked up the sealed envelope and slid a letter opener through the top like he'd done it 1,000 times. He didn't rush. He folded the flap back, pulled out a single sheet of paper, thick, yellowed slightly, and adjusted his glasses. The whole room went still. Even the baby stopped squirming. Keaton cleared his throat and started reading. Dana, you always hated sentimental crap, so I'll make this short. I left you everything not to punish your uncle, not to prove a point, but because you were the only one who never asked for a damn thing. My fingers twitched, but I kept my grip steady on Mom's hand. You never came looking for handouts. You never tried to impress me. You lived your life the hard way, working for every dollar, standing up for your mother when no one else would, and staying when you could have run. That mattered more than you think? Keaton paused, just a breath. then continued. Brian's always been charming. That was his greatest trick. He could make you laugh while stealing your wallet. He learned how to talk his way through life and never learned how to own a mistake. I stopped trusting him when I realized he couldn't look a man in the eye after lying to him. Brian's jaw clenched, but he didn't say a word. Ashley is who she is. I don't hate her for it. She saw an open door and walked through it. But ambition without character is just greed with lipstick. You don't marry a dying woman's husband and then cry foul when people don't clap for you. Ashley's face went pale. The baby, I don't blame him. But being a father doesn't cancel out who you are. Raising a child doesn't erase the pain you left behind. Parenthood isn't redemption. It's a responsibility. That's something Brian still doesn't get. Keaton didn't look up once. You, Dana, you lived with integrity. You held the line when the family fractured. You didn't sell out. You didn't beg. You stood in the storm and didn't flinch. That's why I left it to you. You're the one I trust to do something decent with it. My throat tightened, but I didn't make a sound. My mother's shoulders started to shake beside me. This isn't about blood. It's about backbone. I know you'll do what's right. I don't need to tell you how. I trust you. That's all. Jack Keaton folded the letter slowly and set it on the table like it was fragile. No one spoke. My mother let out a quiet, broken sob. Not the kind she could hide behind a tissue. The real kind. The kind that cracked open the air. I didn't say anything. I just held her hand. Tight. Ashley shifted in her seat like she might stand up and make a scene, but even she knew the room wasn't hers anymore. Brian looked like he'd swallowed a mouthful of nails. No more swagger. Just a bitter silence, jaw twitching, eyes locked on the letter like it owed him something. My mother leaned against me, wiping her face with her sleeve. He saw you, she whispered. I nodded, just once. He did. Brian shot up from his chair like the floor had burned him. This isn't over. Keaton didn't flinch. He just sat there, hands folded, eyes on the folder like Brian's tantrum was background noise. Brian jabbed a finger toward the table. I'll have my lawyer review this within the week. You think you can bury me with a letter and a few signature pages? He was manipulated. This whole thing stinks of coercion. Feel free to proceed however you wish, Keaton said calmly. Everything was signed, witnessed, and recorded in compliance with state law. Brian's face was red now, blotchy at the cheeks. His voice cracked. He was sick. You all saw it. He wasn't thinking straight. He turned to me, seething. You played him. I stared straight at him. He wasn't the one being played. Ashley stood too, bouncing the baby like she was trying to ward off a meltdown. This is disgusting, she said sharply. A child is being punished because his grandfather didn't like who his father fell in love with? What kind of legacy is that? I didn't blink. Jack already thought of the child, and he made a choice. Her jaw locked, but her eyes flickered. She knew it was over. The baby started to cry, a thin, high wail that pierced the tension like a siren. Ashley hissed something under her breath and turned toward the door. Brian stood frozen for half a beat, then shoved the chair out of his way and followed. The door slammed harder than it needed to. Just like that, they were gone. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, sharp around the edges. My mom wiped her eyes again. She didn't speak, just leaned closer, and I let her. Keaton reached across the table, slid the letter toward me. He wanted you to have this. I took it without a word. The paper felt heavier than it should have, like it held more than ink and air. I folded it carefully, then tucked it into the inside pocket of my blazer, right over my heart. My mom looked at me, voice barely above a whisper. He saw you. I nodded. Once. Tight. I saw me too. We sat there for another minute, maybe more, just breathing. No one rushed us. No one said congrats or sorry or anything useless like that. When I finally stood up, my legs felt stiff. The room still smelled like tension and leather and the baby's fading formula scent. Keaton started gathering the papers. We'll be in touch to finalize the asset transfers and deed filings. Okay. If you need time. I'm ready? He gave a short nod. Your grandfather respected you deeply. He spoke highly of you every time we met. I gave him a small nod, then turned back to help my mother to her feet. Her legs trembled, but she didn't fall. We didn't speak as we walked out of the room. We didn't need to. The rain had stopped. We left the law office in silence. I drove. My mom stared out the window like the world was unfamiliar. By the next morning, I had the account numbers. The wire transfer took 10 minutes. I split everything straight down the middle. After taxes, after fees, no discussion. She called 20 minutes later, crying so hard I could barely understand her. You didn't have to. Dana, honey, I didn't earn this. I didn't. You kept us alive, I said, plain and firm. This is yours too. She sobbed into the phone. I let her. I didn't soften the words. I meant every one of them. That week, the house felt unnaturally still. No noise, no demands. No emails from Keaton. No late-night Jack voicemails. Just me and silence. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't chasing approval. Not from my father, wherever the hell he vanished to. Not from Jack, who watched me like a cop tracking a suspect, even when he loved me. Not from Brian, who treated me like a placeholder in my own family. That chain broke clean. On a Thursday night, just after 10, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and already knew. Brian. I opened it. He looked rough. Same suit jacket from the will reading, but wrinkled and damp. Eyes bloodshot. Hair a mess. No car in the driveway. Ashley left, he said. Took the baby. Went to her sister's in Ohio. Said she's done. I leaned against the door frame. You walk here? He nodded. Tried to call an Uber. Card declined. I didn't invite him in. Just waited. He stared at the floor. I don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore. That much is obvious. He looked up, searching my face like maybe he'd find something left there. Pity, forgiveness, a door back in. Do you still care? He asked quietly. I didn't blink. Not like that. The words hit him like a punch in the gut. His shoulders dropped. Whatever was propping him up gave out. He turned without another word and walked down the porch steps, into the night. Didn't even ask for a ride. I watched him go. His outline disappeared into the dark, slower than it should have, like he wasn't sure where the road ended. I shut the door, locked it, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the one left behind. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, flipping through the final documents from Keaton's office. Most of it was what I expected. Account statements, pension breakdowns, legal addendums that all boiled down to, it's yours now. But tucked behind the notarized will was something else. A deed. Maple Ridge, Pennsylvania, Jack's hometown. A place I'd only heard about in fragments, old stories about summer baseball, his first patrol car, the diner where he met my grandmother. The property listed, 112 South Main Street. Use, commercial. Structure, vacant bookstore. I pulled out my laptop and typed the address into Google Maps. The little red pin dropped on a narrow road sandwiched between two alleys. Across from it, a boarded-up bakery and an old gas station with rusted-out pumps. I stared at the screen for a few minutes, then grabbed my keys. The drive took 2.5 hours, long stretches of empty road, trees half golden in early fall, the sky too wide. Maple Ridge looked like it had been forgotten on purpose, the kind of town that used to matter when trains still ran through it. The bookstore sat at the end of a cracked sidewalk, slumped between two brick buildings like it was ashamed to be seen. The awning was faded green with letters peeled off, just the boo left hanging. The windows were dusty but not broken. The door had a no trespassing sign that looked older than me. Still, I stepped out of the car and stood in front of it, hands in my jacket pockets. The air smelled like wet leaves and old oil. I didn't need a tour. I didn't need an inspection. I just stood there and felt it. This place had been his secret, his quiet, and now it was mine. I called the listing number printed in the upper corner of the deed. The agent picked up on the second ring. South Main, he said when I gave the address. Don't bother. That place is toast. Roof leaks, mold in the back, plumbing's prehistoric. Nobody wants it, I do. A pause. You sure? I mean, it's not just a weekend flip. It needs work. Real work. I know what it needs. He gave me the sale terms. They weren't bad. Small town pricing. Jack must have bought it outright years ago. Cash, I said. No negotiation. Draw up the papers I hung up before he could talk me out of it. I walked up to the door and pressed my hand against the glass. The dust shifted just enough to see shelves inside. Slanted, bare, covered in cobwebs. A stack of old books lay in a corner like someone had abandoned them mid-chapter. It wasn't pretty. But I didn't want pretty. I wanted real. The first day I walked into that bookstore with the keys, it smelled like mildew and dead dreams. Dust coated everything. The floor creaked in ways that felt personal. Half the ceiling tiles had stains the color of weak coffee, and the back wall had water damage that looked like it had been ignored since the Clinton administration. I didn't care. I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. The shelf. That's what I decided to call it. Not a cafe, not a community center, not anything grand. Just a place to sit, breathe, read, maybe feel like you mattered for a second. A second chance tucked between two alleys in a town most people had forgotten. Locals started noticing the lights on. One or two peeked through the windows while I swept floors or yanked out rotted shelves. Most walked past like they were waiting to see if I'd give up. I didn't. I spent mornings patching drywall, afternoons sorting through boxes Jack had stored in the back room. Old paperbacks, dusty journals, even a first edition of To Kill a Mockingbird that made me pause for a full minute. When I wasn't hammering or hauling, I baked. I found my grandmother's recipe cards buried in a file folder Jack had saved. Her handwriting crooked but clear. Lemon muffins, spiced tea bread, buttermilk biscuits. I started small, just tea and muffins, served on mismatched thrift store plates with chipped edges. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm. Then came Josh. He showed up after I left a flyer at the gas station. Mid-20s, sleeves rolled, hands calloused, quiet with eyes that didn't judge. "Place has good bones," he said, glancing around. "You're the first person to say that without laughing." He smiled barely. "You just gotta know what to look for." He fixed the roof, replaced the plumbing, reinforced the sagging doorway. Didn't talk much unless I asked him something. I liked that. One afternoon, while he was sanding down the front window frame, he asked, "Why the shelf?" I was elbow deep in flour. I looked up. "It's what's left when the story's done." He nodded like he got it. Didn't ask anything else. Opening day came faster than I expected. No banner, no balloons. Just a chalkboard sign that read, "Open, come in, sit down, or don't." No pressure. The bell over the door rang at 9:14. First was an older woman in a raincoat, hunched like her bones were tired. She didn't say a word, just picked up a copy of Little Women, sat down in the corner armchair, and started to read. At 10:02, a teenage boy walked in with a sketch pad tucked under his arm. Long bangs, hoodie, earbuds. He bought a muffin, nodded once, and slid into a corner booth. 10 minutes later, he was drawing something. Looked like comic book panels. By noon, 4 more people had come through. None stayed long. But they didn't leave empty. I stood behind the counter, wiping crumbs off a plate, and realized I didn't feel like I was proving anything anymore. Not to Jack, not to Brian, not even to myself. This place, this forgotten, crooked little shop, was mine. And somehow, in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by chipped paint and mismatched chairs, I finally felt like I belonged. It was a Thursday, cold, gray, and quiet. I was behind the counter refilling the sugar jars when the bell over the door rang. I didn't even have to look. I felt it. Brian. He looked smaller, thinner than before, cheeks sunken, blazer hanging off him like it didn't belong to him anymore. The collar of his shirt was wrinkled, stained at the edge. His eyes met mine, haunted, hollow. "I'm not here to fight," he said. I didn't move. "Okay." He walked up to the counter slowly, like his shoes weighed double. "I've lost everything," he said. "Ashley's gone. Took the baby. I've got no job, no money, no plan." I kept wiping the counter with a damp rag. He looked around like the room might interrupt him. "I don't even know who I am without all that stuff." I let that sit for a beat. Then I said it, plain and steady. "That's yours to live with." He blinked, swallowed hard. "You're not even mad anymore?" "No," I said. "I'm done carrying that." His shoulders sagged, like I'd pulled the last brick out from under him. He didn't ask for help, didn't beg. He just turned and walked out. I didn't flinch. That night, my mom came by. She didn't knock. She just let herself in, like she always used to when I lived in the old place. I had the oven on, orange zest muffins, no recipe, just memory. She sat at the corner stool by the counter and watched me work. I slid the first batch onto a cooling rack, broke one open, steam rising, handed it to her on a napkin. She took one bite. Her eyes filled instantly. "He'd be proud," she said. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Later, after she left, I turned off the lights inside, flipped the open sign for the next morning. Outside, rain tapped the windows, soft and steady, but I didn't brace for it. This time, I owned the storm.